All right, hello everyone, and welcome now to episode number 23 of Verdicts of the Ancient Kings. We are waiting on War Drums, or waiting for War Drums, or waiting for Scars. Really not quite sure when the official announcement will be. We know that it is soon, and it seems like Hex Entertainment has taken the Blizzard stance of soon to be in a TM as soon as it's ready. Alongside me, I do have Nico, as we will be looking at some of the final spoilers and then just talking about some general stuff regarding Hex and what we expect to see in the upcoming years or upcoming months and maybe even years for Hex. So, why don't we go ahead and jump right into it? Nico, why don't you go ahead and talk about the spoiler, or excuse me, the puzzles?
Okay, sure. Yeah, so our last puzzle was quite the puzzle. Actually, Crota came up with this, and we had a PvP version and a PvE version that was supposed to be different. However, the answer for both happened to be the same, basically the same solution. And we'll get into that later. But you had three resources for PvP, do as much damage as possible. You had four resources and equipment and PvE cards for PvE and do as much damage as possible. And you had four artifacts in play, so you can. That was part of the challenge, is figuring out which four artifacts you actually had in play and how to go about solving the problem, which was, basically how can I do as much damage as possible. So with all that said, the basically, let's jump to the next slide. We do have winners: Cyru, Charlotte, and Aviaeus. I'm not sure if that's your IGN, so you can send that to us if you need to. But we'll get into the solution in a second. I just wanted to go over some of the rules. We talked about recursion on the slide that Crota was just on. Basically, what that means is, anything that's repeated in a recursive procedure, which is basically something that happens over and over again, would be something that would not be allowed. So we're trying to do away with someone doing something over and over again. Like, I got a few responses with Mecha Hive, and then people repeatingly using Mecha Hive to kind of combo off, and that actually would not work. So we didn't want that to be part of the solution. Anyways, so no recursion. When a card is played, a card is, you play it from your hand, but when something is copied, that card that you play, what becomes copied is not actually played. The card does get played, but it's not being played from your hand, so it's not considered played. And then, if a trigger happens for card X that's in play, when another card Y is played, those triggers would only happen when and if card X is already in play. And I'll talk a little bit about that on the next slide. And it leads to the results below, so we'll talk about it now. So the solution that we were hoping you came up with was that, you had a Gore Master in play for PvP, and then you would follow that Gore Master up with the Glyph of Ferocity and two Scorches. And how that actually worked was all four artifacts in play were Fallen Singularities with Ruby as a selected shard. So all of the cards that are played, including Gore Master, are going to give you 8 charges per card. So Gore Master would not get those 8 charges for itself because it's being played. And Fallen Singularity triggers when the card is played. But after it's in play, those next 3 cards that are played would trigger the charges for Gore Master, and you'd have 24 charges, which is like 24, 1 to the 24th power or something like that, or just keeps multiplying his damage. You can see that with that combo, you can do 16,777,216 damage. And that's using Savas as your champion, because that would give you an extra Scorch to increase the damage that much. And then if you use the same combo in PvE, because you could play Zap or Crackling Magma with the equipment, you could actually do 33,554,433 damage. what Crota and I were hoping to do for PvE was get this arena regular combo to go off, but after I calculated the damage, I'm like, oh, that wasn't that incredible. We only were able to do 589,000 damage. Still a lot of damage, but not quite Goremaster style. So, and that's because the Bloodlust has equipment that lowers the cost of orcs in your hand, and they get double damage. And then also the arena regular helm equipment that does damage as well. So we wanted people to kind of have fun with it and find an ultimate combo. We had a lot of cool submissions with Eternal Invokers and Chimera, what's it called? Chimes of the Zodiac. So thanks for all your submissions, and I hope you enjoyed thinking through this one, because it was kind of fun to think of all the astronomical numbers we could come up with.
Yeah, I think when we were originally designing this one, we were like, okay, they were like, do we have all of our bases covered, or is anyone going to actually beat us in terms of damage? And you guys definitely did. We opened the box a little bit too wide with 4 of the same artifact in play, and that I think there was even like shards of the a sliver of the shard or the immortal spears being thrown around in there as answers as well. Key thing to note for the arena regular, I actually went into Hex to have them test this particular puzzle. The arena regular, it only works after up to 31 charges. After your 31st charge, it actually goes negative and it breaks the game. So I don't know if you're ever going to be in a situation where you have an arena regular and you've played your 31st charge and you're like, oh, I really need that extra double damage on top of it. Don't do it. You'll actually break the game. The number becomes so large it actually turns out to be negative, and the arena regular starts doing no damage at all. So for all of you guys out there who were wondering, yeah, 2 to the power of 31 is the maximum for all of you CS geeks out there trying to figure out what the upper limits on numbers are.
Yeah, so I thought it was a pretty cool idea from Crota. Fallen Singularity is an awesome card, and then being able to go charge crazy. In fact, originally when we looked at this combo, we didn't even think of Savas as a champion. We're thinking of the new champion that gives charges when a troop is played, and thought that would have been really cool. But that wasn't actually something that we could do. So unfortunately, that didn't work out.
Yeah, well, Goremaster and anything where you get charges, it's going to be a great card. And unfortunately, Goremaster is rotating out, and we'll see whether or not we'll be able to get some good charge play in the upcoming sets, since we do have those new champions that gain charges whenever you play an Ardent or Underworld troop based upon your specific faction. Moving right along, we do have a couple of new spoilers in terms of cards, not the pages and endless pages that we had last week. So we can actually sit down and kind of digest these cards a little bit further and actually talk about the overall design and shift that we've seen from set 1 to set 6. With set 6, Scars of War being the 6th set now for Hex, it feels like they've finally found their footing in terms of what they want to do and what they can do in the digital space. What are your thoughts on all of these created cards that we seem to be being able to enjoy in Scars of War?
Yeah, I mean, just as an overview, some of the neat things is like they're combining cards that we're seeing in sets, like the Buffalo. All of the buffaloes are now like being culminated into this epic buffalo beast that you could build a deck around. It's not so much like for crazy constructed, but it's a really nice limited card, and it could be pretty fun to play in PvE as well.
A quick question: are some of the buffaloes rotating out of standards?
Yeah. So the first 2 buffaloes, which I believe is the Diamond Buffalo, and I think Rotting Buffalo. I think it's Diamond and Blood.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they're both rotating out of standard, so we won't see them anymore.
So the Buffalo Lord cannot create those particular buffaloes in the standard format, because creation is only based on limited now, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Because it says random unique buffalo, it probably will not be able to create the diamond or blood.
Unless there is a reprint, well, or we'll have to see. I don't know for certain, but that would be sad. The Buffalo Lord will not be able to get Life Drain or Swift Strike in
Yeah,
in the new limited format, or not limited in the limited and the new standard format.
yeah, it is pretty sad. It will reduce its playability a bit. I'm not sure if they warp the rules a bit for cards like that, but my guess is they won't.
Well, in my experience, I would assume Matriarch of the Flames still can legitimately create Burn to the Ground, since Burn to the Ground
Oh,
is
true.
a set one card specifically. So, yeah, I'd actually have to ask a Williams question here. If you can you randomly create that specific shard? That's a good question. Anyways, we're taking too much time looking at the Buffalo Lord when there's so many other beautiful cards to look here. The Moon Aru Sharpshooter, 2 cost troop. It's a Shinhair Ranger 1/1. Deploy, conscript an underworld troop with cost 1. When a troop you control with cost 1 attacks, this gets +1/+1 this turn. What do you make of this guy, this little sharpshooter here?
Well, I really like it because it combos with a lot of things that are one cost, like the Spring Litter Disciple, maybe even Ritualist of the Spring Litter if you happen to hit a Shinhair.
Hmm.
So you could get some nice little synergies with this card. Maybe not so much in limited, maybe not even constructed, but maybe eternal, and more than likely PV. It'll be very popular, but definitely a cool card to consider when you're building a deck.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's fun. It's not amazing by itself, but if you have it comboed with other things, it'll be really good.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm trying to figure out what the real upside is going to be. I think the Shinher the Spring Litter. I don't know. It seems that it'd be really good in some sort of Dreadling tech deck, since Dreadlings do cost 1. If you can give it, if it was a 2-drop 1/1 with Crush, and then you could actually get it, with a swarm of Dreadlings, that would be a sight to see. Moving along, we've already talked about the Buffalo Lord and how the Buffalo Lord may be gimped before he even comes onto the field. Moving along, we have a Viridian, a 3-drop 3/3 elf rogue, Crush and Diligence. Cards in your hand get cost -1. Then, if you have no cards in hand, Viridian gets plus attack plus defense equal to her attack and defense. So she's another one of those doublers that can get amazingly out of hand. What are your thoughts?
It's very good. It's going to be very nice with decks that are trying to ramp. But again, diligence, everyone needs to remember, is usually a at least one turn delayed effect.
Mm-hmm.
Like by turn 3, if you're playing this on curve, you probably have something to have her exhaust right away. Like maybe you have something that gives her speed, or maybe you have a lair, or what's it called?
An outpost.
Yeah, the outpost. So the outpost could help you get this effect right away on the next turn. You might even have Stinkhorn Soup or something that can ready her again right away. So getting the value immediately is going to be huge. And then also, it really depends on what's in your hand. Like this could be a really fun thing to play with the Valor, because if you have ways to mass create Valor, you can make all of those Valors free. So that might be something worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out. And I think those 1 cost cards costing 0 is going to really help the most. And I don't know if we're ever going to see her really beyond a 6/6, let alone a 12/12 in terms of damage. You got to remember, you're going to have no cards in hand, and generally having no cards in hand is not a situation that you really want to put yourself into in most professional or higher end constructed games. I don't know if you're doing top decking for the win and trading blows, trying to squeak out that final point of damage. Viridian may be able to do that for you, but it's not something you really want to rely on as one of your beefy bodies.
Yeah, definitely not. This is definitely something you want when you have a well-developed hand.
Yeah. Moving along to the mad progenitist. Progenitist?
Yeah, Progenitus.
All right, so when an underworld card enters your hand, summon a dreadling for each different underworld race among troops you control. And I really like conscript specifically with cards like this where an underworld troop enters your hand or an ardent troop enters your hand, because conscript does that for you. It's you don't have to rely on some sort of card draw top decking that card that you need. You can actually purposely play a card that will do that for you. And in this situation, you're gonna be able to create dreadlings.
Yeah, and it's nice too if you have any effects that draw on your opponent's turn, because then you can make dreadlings on your opponent's turn and block. So there's not many cards in the game right now that allow you to make dreadlings on your opponent's turn, and this is one of the few ones that actually will allow that to happen.
Yeah, if you can somehow, if you have a quick way of creating an underworld troop and you have four of the underworld races, if you can play one or two cost quick action card that conscripts a troop, you have all of a sudden four blockers. That could be an immediate swing if all of your other troops were exhausted to begin with. So this is going to be one of those cards that you have to be cautious and play around if we do see decks. And I like this card specifically because I can't imagine what the upper limit of this card is. When you see certain cards like Might Singer and like Might Singer, you knew immediately that it was going to be good. It just needed to be tuned. A card like this, I don't know how good it can be. It has such a high end, especially with that blocking dreadling tech that you were talking about, and I hope that it is used in constructed play.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has a lot of application too with cards like Balthazar and like a with Freak of Nature type of deck with what's that champion called? But then there's cards like Crocosaur that like take slots from it. So it really depends on like the other cards that are taking up slots. It might be a one or two of. It could help against certain board flood scenarios, but again, it is a three cost, and it's going to take you at least one more turn to set it up. So
Mm-hmm.
it might be too slow.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Well, it's one of those things where we hope and wait and see. Okay, so we're looking at the Malevolent Machinations now. Deal 2 damage to target opposing champion or troop for each different underworld race among troops you control. Gain health equal to the damage dealt this way. Um, seems like an amazing card. It is basic action speed, but being able to essentially have a vampire kiss on basic action speed, but deal more damage.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, the requirement that you have to have different types of underworld troops in play could really make it backfire hugely. But the cost and then the health gain from it really makes it worth playing, and it might see main deck play because people will want to combat the damage that's being dealt to them through like an Angus deck.
Hmm.
So we might see this played a little bit more than you would think. In both limited and possibly constructed.
Yeah. All right. Warp Steel Shard Sworn. Socketable Miner. It's a 2-drop 1/1 that when it deploys summons a Depth Crawler, which is a Socketable Miner 1-drop 1/1. Uh, but it does have a random shard. What do you make of this?
I think it would be really nice to play in maybe a McBombus type of deck for Valor. Because you're getting a free Depth Crawler out of it, you could get double Valor. Or at the very least, you might have a troop that comes into play with Swift Striker, Dreadling Creation. So it could be pretty good. If you're playing an Actions Matters deck, I think there's probably a lot of ways to get value out of this particular play.
Yeah. And looking at this particular card, the Warp Steel Shard Sworn, I think we are going to see a lot of ways to play multiple races through one particular card. You look at the Malevolent Machinations. Turn one, if you play a Sapphire. Turn two, you play a Blood. You play the Warp Steel Sworn. You have two of the four Underworld races already on turn two. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
on turn three, you can essentially deal 4 damage. So even if you're on the draw, you can easily remove your opponent's 4 defense troop with the with that card, the malevolent, I can't even speak, malevolent machinations. Wow, I'm having a hard time this
It's
evening.
all right. Yeah,
But yeah,
no,
you're
that's
able to
true.
deal 4 damage, heal 4, and if you still have one extra resource to do anything with, that's a major tempo swing in being able to remove your opponent's 3 drop while healing back up and maybe possibly swinging 4-2 as well.
Yeah, and if you're worried about Angus, like you could have Swift Strike Gem in them. You can even have Depth Crawlers on top of them, either providing Valor or Swift Strike. So you could have a lot of ways to either force Angus to burn more cards to remove your troops, or just straight up kill Bolt Spasms while protecting yourself with cards like um, Malevolent Machinations. That is a hard card to say.
Yeah. Okay. Machinations. I'll say machinations. It's MMAC. So yeah, I think that is going to be something we're going to see more of. So before we can really judge whether or not there's going to be a lot of different races, how easy it is to get 3 or even 4 of the races, we need to see some of those common and uncommon cards that seem to already fit the bill a little bit. Moving along, we have Rylanith, the Soul Cursed, and this is actually one of the dual shard dragons that I'm thinking might actually see play. 5 drop 5/5 flight, so it's already a decent body with flight, some built-in evasion, but the deploy, each opposing troop gets Soul Cursed. And Soul Curse says whenever a troop with Soul Curse is destroyed, sacrifice all other Soul Cursed troops.
Yeah, so it is pretty neat, and I think it'll be really strong. It's like a really delayed and odd extinction, but it might be a really nice way to get rid of troops, especially if the opponent has like a one defense troop that you could take out very easily
Mm-hmm.
right after playing Ryanlith. So I think it will see play as well. It might be a one or two of. I think it has a place in control, and it has the right colors for control as well.
All right, moving along, we have the Rift Spasm. At the end of each turn, if you gained 2 or more charges this turn, choose one at random. Summon a Bolt Spasm, draw a card, or this gets +2/+2. You may be thinking to yourself, how often are you going to be able to get 2 charges on during a specific turn? And especially with Crackling Vortex and Crackling Bolt being moved out, but at the same time, the new champions that say whenever you play an Ardent or Underworld tr- troop, gain a charge. So Rift Spasm may find themselves splashed into some sort of Ruby Sapphire, probably along the lines of the dwarves, and being able to grow, get some sort of acceleration or some sort of card advantage. And I see this card working out fairly well in Limited.
Yeah, I think it'll be a limited bomb for an uncommon slot. It doesn't have the best base stats, but the random effects of it, either Bolt Spasm, drawing a card, or +2/+2 permanently, are all very good. So that value that you can get off of a charge themed deck will go a long way to helping you win a limited game.
All right, moving along to the Martyred Saint. 5 drop 5/5 Steadfast. Your other Ardent troops have +1/+1, and Steadfast. Deathcry. Transform this into the Save Soul and put it into play. The Save Soul is, I believe, is it a constant or an
Yeah,
artifact?
it's a constant.
It's a constant that gives all your other Ardent troops +1/+1 and Steadfast, and it says if when an Ardent troop enters your hand, revert this, so it immediately changes back into the Martyred Saint. I absolutely love this card, and I think this is a brilliant way that they're using Conscript again, where you have quick actions or quick ways you can generate the Martyred Saint on your opponent's turn and have it as a ready blocker. You can purposely kill your own Martyred Saint to perhaps remove it from getting voided, and then immediately bring it back. Just some really really strange and interesting tricks with the Martyred Saint.
Yeah, the only thing that's kind of weird about him is we've seen a lot of diligent stuff spoiled for both Sapphire and Diamond, which I think are going to be popular in combination. And the Steadfast kind of contradicts that a little bit, but their again, we can play outpost or something to make sure our troops exhaust maybe after the block on the enemy's turn.
Yeah, I think exhausting outside of combat is going to become a very very important aspect of the game. I think it feels like the direction that they were trying to take the game was to slow things down just a bit and to create interesting board states where you have a lot of things on the field. I think the llama collar was one of those ways where you could purposely try and exhaust things on your side of the board without necessarily attacking. But then they also brought in a number of basic actions, I believe, that says destroy target exhausted troops. So that there seems to be a lot more synergy and thought into the set as I look at more and more of the cards that they've built and all of the crazy combinations that we could possibly see.
Yeah, as an adverse to that, the illusory, is it illusory form?
It could be
Oh,
three L's. Lust.
then I would never be able to pronounce it.
No, it
Illusory
is
form
illusory form. Yeah, it's
is quick constant, and it's probably going to make games happen faster, especially if people are playing cards that have some amazing deploy trigger on the troop that you control, like a Crocosaur, which is, I think Neo had shared that in his little video that was recently shared today. Very good card. It's going to be meta warping. I think it might bring back a resurgence of Wintermoon because it just makes sense to play in a wild theme deck. And it's going to be great in any pairing with Sapphire. I think Sapphire had a lot of nice cards that is going to make it see a lot more constructed play as a pairing color choice.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of a little bit more control, hopefully slowing things down a little bit, where everyone isn't just racing for the face without regard to the board state. But yeah, illusory form is one of those cards where the first time I saw it, I the more I read it, the more I liked it. You have to void your own troop, right? Void target troop you control. So, but it is quick, so you can do some interesting combat tricks with it. Purposely blocking, having your opponent waste some sort of combat trick. You can void it and then get your deploy action back into play. I'm trying to figure out, are there any other good ways to use it besides the deploy combo?
Besides a deploy combo?
Yeah, like being able to
Well,
get
I
the
mean,
deploy.
yeah, like you said, you can save a troop. I think that's going to be like the primary way to use it. Like maybe defensively, you block. They use some sort of combat trick. You illusory form, so they waste 2 for 1, and you redeploy your card. And if it has a deploy trigger, then bonus value.
I feel like I wanted to do more, even though that already sounds like a lot.
Yeah, that is a ton of value. I think it's like a card that could net you like up to 4 for 1, but it'll probably net you like a 2 for 1, which is really good still.
Yeah. All right. So here are some cards, and I really thought by this time this week we would have had a drop dead date of when Scars of War was upon us. It seems like spoilers are starting to come to a crawl, and we've already got the majority of the big spoils. We got the two like the Might Singers for Blood and Diamond. We got the new dragon. We got some of the flavor rares as the Buffalord, and right now we're just waiting on the rest of those commons and uncommons, which will flesh out the rest of the set and really take us into a new limited pool. In terms of Evo, Evo is going to change dramatically from being flashback Evo to sets 5 and 6 only. Draft is going to be turning into from 555 to 665, and limited will be 666655. And what are your thoughts on what we've seen so far in terms of what we know of the current meta in limited and in draft, and what we can expect to see moving forward?
Yeah, so the current meta in limited is really, I mean, there are different ways to play, but some of the strongest things that I've seen are basically, you go kind of a Valor themed build, or you go kind of a evasive rage themed build with Gorn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are some in betweens. There's some nice drizzling tech. There's other synergies, but those are kind of the two staples. Um, I took a screenshot of the most recent draft deck I made, and it was kind of interesting because I never really built anything this type of way. In fact, I was using a card that I don't often like to play at all, which is the Emberleaf Bladesman. And what I found is like if I'm playing Marshal Josephina, I want to get ahead because I love to use her charge power offensively,
Mm-hmm.
but also she's a great stall champ because she has 25 health and you can use it defensively to stop someone from attacking
Mm-hmm.
while you set up a board state. And one of the nice ways to set up a board state is to have a few Swift Strike troops to thwart off your opponent from attacking. So some of the real cool things about this draft deck that I ended up with is that I had two Altars of Nulzon
Mm-hmm.
and I had six socketable troops that I was playing and a Sentry of Nulzon to lower their cost. So that's up to 8 different troops in my deck that I could play that were socketed because of the Altar of Nulzon 3-cost trigger as well.
Mm-hmm.
I also had 2 Scions of Nulzon, but I didn't play them because they're a little too high, and I like to keep my curve low if possible. And this deck just crushed everybody I played. It was really interesting. I didn't think I was going to do as well as I did,
Mm-hmm.
but the synergy in this deck and the low curve just allowed me to chew through my opponents. And the card draw from the altars alone was just really nice because not a lot of people pack artifact removal in set 5 limited. So it'll be interesting to see how like something like this morphs with set 6 and the kind of the more thematic faction matters deck building. I don't think Diamond Ruby is going to be the best per se. They'll still be really strong, but we might see more Diamond Sapphire. We might see more Ruby Wild. So it could really mix things up in terms of how to build a deck. And you're not going to see these 4 Emberleaf Bladesman's combos anymore because we're only going to be looking at one set 5 pack when we're drafting.
Yeah, and when I look at this, like I love what I see here, like in terms of the set 5 draft. I love the cremate early on being able to remove what is the Gorn like 3-1 like or any sort of evasive troop that has rage that is either flying over you or you can't block because you don't have enough attack. That cremate deals with the Dustwing Priest and the 3-1 blood, what orc is it, blood sorcerer?
Yeah, the orc that usually has unblockable
Yeah.
or flight.
Yeah, so he's just going to be throwing in. So I like that. In terms of what I think we're going to see in sets, the 665 draft, it really seemed like there isn't going to be nearly as many. Is there as many minor socketed troops that have evasion? That can get evasion easily, like in blood and diamond?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think I've seen all of the minor socketed stuff that are kind of in that blood diamond ruby mix
Mm-hmm.
because I think those will still be the popular higher attack troops that might go for the unblockable.
Mm.
So maybe we'll see more there, but you might be right. Maybe they've lowered kind of the base attack for some of the socketed troops in both blood and ruby, so that you're still kind of digging in set 5 to try to find those cards that help you make a Gorn work.
Yeah, like Gorn has just been a powerhouse since it was released, and I think I don't know. Gorn's health total at 23 does seem questionable to me, and I guess that would actually be one of my questions to Hex if I actually remembered, since I do visit them so often. Like, do they feel that Gorn was a little bit more powerful at 23 than, especially since they moved Josephina's charge power from three charges to 4 during that original playtest session, that open when after they announced it, they actually upped her from 3 to 4, if I remember correctly.
Yes, they did, and actually that was really good that they did because she's still super powerful with 25 health and a 4 cost charge.
Yeah, and it almost makes me feel bad for the Sapphire equivalent who stuns an exhausted character. The charge power is 3, but
Yeah, Malzahn. I think he's really good though.
he is really good. But with the 21 health, like if you're running Diamond Sapphire, do you like? Part of me is like, do I want the 4 extra health, or do I want the charge power to be cost 1 less, but I can't use it unless the troop is already exhausted?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point. I think most of the time I end up in Malzahn is when I'm playing Ruby Sapphire.
Yeah. So it's one of those situations where if you are, Diamond Sapphire, if for some reason you got like 4 Cloud Runners and you're like, I want to make this work, I want to like drop two flyers on turn 2, but choosing between Josephina and the Venom, I think it was always going to be Josephina.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, we can't really discuss too much more about the draft until we, get some games underneath our belt. I think draft is always one of those things where release weekend answers the most questions, and in terms of what's really going to be played, what are the popular archetypes, the meta types, what like even small things like the print order that is supposedly supposed to happen in drafts, like what cards are commonly paired together, and what cards are you going to see more often?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to find all that out. I'm looking forward to the release week because usually it's all set 6,
Hmm.
so that'll be kind of fun and wonky. But that means that we have to wait another week or two before we start to kind of figure out what it looks like mixed with set 5.
All right. Moving on finally to our final, or not our final puzzle, our final slide, our puzzle for the week. This is PvE legal equipment. Please include equipment and cards. And this is one of yours, Nico. It says if it is your opponent's turn, he has 300 cards in deck, 0 cards in play, 0 cards in crypt, 0 cards in hand, 15 health. You have three resources, 1 card in hand, 1 card in deck, 1 wild threshold, 2 sapphire threshold, no cards in crypt, no cards in play, no charges. Champion and charge power do not apply. You can use RNG for the puzzle, but no deck recursion. Win on your turn. What card in hand, what card in deck, and the sequencing. If you do use RNG to solve this puzzle as part of your challenge, what is the percentage chance the entire sequence would resolve in the same way? I don't even know what that final RNG, if you do use RNG, what do you mean by that? The percentage
So
chance.
there are cards in the game that do things randomly, and it may or may not be one of the easier ways to solve this puzzle. I'm not going to say the only way because people always prove us wrong.
Yeah.
So um, if you do use some kind of randomness, because of the solution, one of the solutions I'm thinking of will involve some randomness. How often would that happen? There is going to be a specific scenario where you could deal 15 damage. How often would you be able to deal that or more? Is it 100% of the time? Is it 5%, 10%? Let me know, and that will be part of the bonus challenge. That will determine who the winner is. I would say if someone gets the challenge right, great. But if you get the RNG portion of it right as well, it's just added incentive to making sure you actually win the prize for the puzzle. So I guess I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So champion and charge power do not apply. I can't say cardboard tooth samurai. He has weakness, and I hit for 20. I can't do that.
Yeah, that'd be a little bit cheating. Yeah, so that's why I wanted to roll that out. Yeah, cardboard tube samurai with vulnerability counter, of course. That's why I'm trying to make the champion and the passives that the champions have unimportant here. It's really about the card in your hand and the card in the deck and your thresholds.
And I'm also assuming there is no like mercenary bonus where the passives of the mercenaries don't help as well. Just to be
Yeah,
safe.
no, I mean, I swear, if I have to start typing everything I have to turn off, it's going to be challenging to make these puzzles correctly.
All right. So, as always, please send your puzzle submissions to nicosharp@gmail.com. And hopefully, by this time next week, we will have something more exciting to talk about. Um, we'll be able to do some interesting things. If you guys have deck ideas that you guys want us to take a look at, please let me know. I think based upon the cards that I have seen, I'm really, really interested in. I think I prototyped a blood control deck that actually runs blood infusion devices because of the new five blood card that you can do crazy things with. But like that, more on that later, and when you guys will be seeing that. Can't tell you anything just quite yet.
Awesome. All right.
All right. So from all of us here at Cornerstone, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope to see you guys in Entrath, I guess.
See you later.